All right, got a question comes in. Do we have time to do this question or not? Let's go for it. We might be able to answer it. Y'all, this is a political question, kind of. And look, there's certain things that just get a little bit sensitive when we talk about them. And we just want to remind people always be Christians and be careful about judgments and remember that, uh, you know, when you're, uh, when we stand before God, for the most part, it's not about our politics and our governments here on earth. You can be a part of any type of government as far as living underneath them if you're living a righteous life and go to heaven. You don't have to live in a democracy. You don't have to live in a dictatorship. You just need to make sure that you live spiritually. So I try not to let uh, political things stand in my way. But man, you get people emotional when you talk about politics. So here comes the question. Did I prep that good enough for you, Troy?
Here
Was
we
or
go.
for us, as I go there, I'm trying to find it again. All right, here we go. Would it be wrong, according to God, for a woman to be president of the United States? So not only does this involve politics and government, it also involves the role of women. And so if there's any way we can go make a bunch of people mad right now, Troy, this is it. So Jeff, you answer this one. No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, come on.
No, but anyway, one of you guys, y'all want to answer?
Well, as you and I were talking about this question earlier this evening, and you know right where I'm going to go. The first thing, a lot of times, whenever these questions come in, typically what we do is we go to the verse that comes to mind. And the first thing that came to mind for me, and an example of that, was Deborah in the book of Judges. But then you clarified some things that I thought was spot on as far as how Deborah was a leader for Israel during that time.
Yeah, because a lot of people want to a lot of people want to be able to, and I just happen to see a comment that says I won't give you my opinion, and that's a good thing, because we're trying to give Bible answers. In the case of Deborah, you do have her stepping forward and leading and being a judge, but what I commented to you was when she spoke to Barak, the answer, or Barak, she tells him, "You're the one. I'm not supposed to have to do this." She was recognizing that the reason she was having to step up was because the men would not fulfill the roles in which they were supposed to. Now, I can get to preaching on that one, because how many times have men failed to lead in the home, and it forces the wife to have to step up into and take on a role she's not supposed to have to.
Mm-hmm.
So Judges is an interesting one to go to. But all right, so if we're going to answer the question, I would go to, what does the Bible say about it? Well, I want to go back first and say, uh, any occupation, put president of the United States aside. That doesn't really matter right now. Any job, can a woman hold that job? Well, I think if she's going to hold any position outside of the home, she has to first fulfill the role for which God created her for. Now, I know people are going to get mad at me, but go ahead if you want to. I'm going to just tell you what scripture says. Genesis chapter 2, God had already created Adam, and he says it's not good for man to be alone, so I will create a help suitable for him. And so that's whenever the deep sleep is caused to come upon Adam, takes a rib from his side, forms Eve, and it talks about in that chapter how they're, for this reason shall a man leave father and mother, cleave unto each other, and they shall be one. Now, you have in Ephesians chapter 5 the idea that the husband is the head of the wife. And First Peter chapter 3, it talks about the submission and obedience of the wife to the husband. And then you have the emphasis being given of how to conduct themselves, as far as what older women should be teaching younger women, is to love their husbands, to love their children, and be keepers of the home. And if you read, and that's Titus chapter 2, verse 11. If you read Proverbs 31, you will see that the virtuous woman really focuses on how she provides for her home. In there, though, by the way, you notice that she purchases a field and she's able to produce, and She even takes her goods to the marketplace to be able to sell the excess of what she's been able to produce in order to help provide. So I've always said if she's able to go buy a field or go to the marketplace, things like that, certainly the principle is there that she can work outside that home. But what is the emphasis supposed to be? It's supposed to be providing, being the help suitable for her husband, living in submission and obedience, according to Ephesians 5, 1 Peter 3, caring for, loving her husband, loving the children, being a keeper of the home. Now, if in the process she can do all that and hold a job, like work for the bank, work for as a nurse, do whatever, as long as she can fulfill her God-given roles, then there'd be no problem with it. And I would have to say the president would probably apply. But let me say that I believe it's very difficult. And after talking to many women that have been forced to be able to be in leadership roles in the workplace, it can be very challenging to balance a career in the home. And it can also be very challenging in order for them to be able to change hats, so to speak. Now, I threw a lot out there real quick, but hopefully you saw that was full of Bible talking about what God has said concerning women and their roles. And that's first and foremost. Anything you guys want to add to that?
Well, I think you also said it in a very loving spirit, and I think that's important also, because when we're supposed to give an answer, we're supposed to give that answer not only biblically, but in the spirit of love, and you did that very well.
Well, thank you.
I think you explained it very well, Guyton, and going back to the idea of a woman being president. I mean, there's no really Bible answer for that as far as a woman being president. I think of the Queen of Sheba coming to Solomon, in 1 Kings chapter 10, there's a leader of a country that, God is, the thing is,
an ungodly nation.
Yeah. But God is over
I mean,
all.
I'm not trying to be ugly there.
Well, is the United States a godly nation? I mean, that's a debate right there. So the point being is God is over.
I answered that.
God is over everything. And, what does Romans 13 tell us? God puts people in place.
Us the powers to be ordained of God.
That's right. So, if God decides to put a woman in that place, I mean, according to Romans 8, is it
13?
Thank you, Romans 13. But you explained it very well as far as roles, and I know that goes counterculture to our culture today. It rubs against the grain to our culture today. But this is a Bible show, and this is we focus on Bible answers.
Let me ask you something else too. God knew what He was doing in creating man and woman.
That's right.
He created us differently, y'all. This premise that we're all the same. No, we're not. Are we all valuable? You better believe we are. But God didn't create men and women the same. We are different. Right. And they want to change that rhetoric, but it's just not true. All right. So with that in mind, God created and set in order the institution called the home. Who did He put as leadership in the home? He put the husband, the man. God created the institution we call the church. And who is to be leaders in the church? According to 1 Timothy 3, as well as Titus, those are to be men, not to be women. The qualifications rule out the concept of that. Even the point of 1 Timothy chapter 2, the reason being given there of, don't usurp the authority that the man would hold. Now, if God's infinite wisdom designed the home that way, He designed the church that way, I really do struggle to comprehend why we would think we can come up with a better system than what God does.
Well, that's allowing it's allowing the world to come into the church, right? That's what we're doing. We're allowing worldly influence to come in and dictate to us instead of going to the scriptures and allowing it to dictate. I think that's the point you're making.
Yeah, we need to look to how God sets things up and say, hey, there's a reason God did it this way. And He cites those reasons, like in 1 Timothy chapter 2. We need to trust in God's ways. And hey, you know what? If we started implementing God's ways in our country, perhaps our country would be better off pursuing after and following after Him. Now, again, I don't believe we have to have the United States of America or we have to have some certain country. Rome thought they were needed they history will show. Did we have to have Rome for this world to continue to exist?
Nope, we did
The
not.
Jews thought they thought they were God needed them. Well, they found out when they were led in captivity, weren't they? Assyrians and Babylonians carrying them away.
Right.
We really ought to be looking to the ways of God and implementing those, because he knew what he was doing. There's a reason he created this way, and we need to embrace it. And it's a beautiful thing. We need to stop apologizing for it.
Amen.
And say, look, God equipped us in certain ways. Now let's make sure that we embrace this great infinite wisdom and the design that he has.
Yeah, and that shows.
Hey, guess what?
Shows your faith in God. If you're going to call yourself a Christian, if you're going to be a God follower, and you're going to be a Christian, you need to embrace that.
Exactly. I hope that helps. I had some Becky Jones put, when man thinks he knows better, he always messes it up. God knows best. Right. Amen, Becky. I agree with you 100% on that. And that, who knows, that might even be Rick saying that. You never know with those two.